Hello, everyone. Coming up here, as you see right here, we kicked off from last week's NXT cliffhanger with Joe Gacy and his assistant Harlan kidnapped the newly minted WWE Hall of Famer Rick Steiner to prove a point to Steiner's son Braun Breaker, where Braun had just come out the heels of winning his championship match over Gunter, who Gunter now is a part of the SmackDown roster. We'll talk about that later on. And where this leading to with Gacy did what he did to kidnap Rick Steiner. We'll talk about that. Plus two, coming up, we'll talk about this. Natalia making a surprise here. Natalia making a surprise on NXT. What is Natalia doing on NXT of all places? Is she getting demoted or is she trying to help improve the women's division? We'll hear about that. Plus two, a tag team gauntlet match for the tag team titles after MSK had won the tag team championships. MSK was supposed to put the tag team titles on the line, but due to the controversy with Nash Carter, who's no longer with WWE due to the Hitler pit, whatever he did, new champions will be crowned. And will we see new champions be crowned coming up and in the debut of Pretty Deadly? We'll lead you to believe what's going on with that. But we're going to get the pro wrestling show started right now. Hello, everyone. This is Kendra Dix here. Thank you all for watching the Pro Wrestling Show presents the NXT Ring Report, and we thank you for watching. First thing first, join in the conversation using the hashtag Pro Wrestling here on Connect. And don't forget to subscribe. Subscribing is caring. Tell a friend, call a friend, hit that subscribe button so you won't miss a thing here. As you see, the boat, as she like to call herself, Natalia, makes a rare appearance on NXT, and we'll talk about what's Natalia's motivation of being in NXT later on in the show. But we kick things off with this. Cameron Grimes defended his North American Championship against Solo Sakai, but due to some controversy, who came and interrupted and ruined the celebration, none other than Carmelo Hayes and his friend Trick Williams, who got unfinished business with the new champion after Grimes had dedicated his win to for his father. And now Grimes finds himself in a could be in a three-way with Sora Sakai and Carmelo Hayes. So look for that happening soon. But Carmelo Hayes trying to send a message on what he's gonna do coming forward. We see that. Plus two, the women's division of Toxic Attraction. Mandy Rose gearing up for her women's championship defense against Dakota Kai, as well as her fellow Toxic Attraction nerves. We're down sitting with Mackenzie Mitchell talking about their upcoming match. And we'll get to that later on in the show on what's happening with that. Plus two, we see Joe Gacy. Joe Gacy, who's been a thorn on the NXT champion Braun Breaker's side. Gacy had a message for Braun Breaker, and Gacy said that he wants a shot at the NXT championship somewhere down the road. We know last week Gacy had kidnapped. He kidnapped. That means he kidnapped Braun Breaker's father, Rick Steiner. Gacy trying to prove a point and stuff. Gacy even took it a little bit too farther by burning Rick Steiner's newly minted Hall of Fame ring. How could you just burn that man's Hall of Fame ring like that? That man worked so hard to get, and he had to go through the proper channels, and now his Hall of Fame ring burnt up to the ground. Well, they can either replace one, but repairing up the heal all wounds, the Hall of Fame ring being messed up. And I hope Braun Breaker gets his hands on Joe Gacy. Gacy even done something like he tried to brandish his pinky. Joe Gacy is just from another world. I tell you that right now. I tell you that right now. All right. Also, too, Von Ragnar was in action. Von Ragnar looks like his father. I forgot who his father looked like, but Von Wagner, um, in the comments saying that he just attacking folks, and he got Robert Stone in his corner, and Robert Stone trying to get back what he's trying to get back to NXT, but have Von Wagner be a killer and a ladies man by throwing an opponent through the fans through the first row. So you know how that be probably going with that channels, but we'll see how Von Wagner it might lead him becoming the next line for a championship match. They treating Braun Breaker like he's Hogan or something. They feed him like he's a monster. Also too, Zaya Quinn was in action. You tried to help this young rookie upcomer, try to know the channels, but Zaya Quinn had to beat him up down and beat him up to a pulp to get his message across, and hopefully he'll learn. We just hope, but you never know. Speaking of that, the boat, Natalia. Natalia appeared on NXT. Natalia, who's from SmackDown, made a rare appearance on NXT. Natalia coming out there to and I knew something was fishy about Natalia coming down there. Natalia getting greeted by the fans and getting greeted. Once again, she even tried to get the attention of Cora Jay, who's kind of a little bit naive, but she should have saw it coming. Natalia told Cora Jay that she's here for one reason and here to put you know what people in her place. And Natalia delivered the sharpshooter, send a message, but she should have knew. Natalia can't be trusted. Natalia feel threatened. Why you think she's down in NXT for the first place? And also, too, we found out too Natalia will be in action next week against Tam Putnam, who stood up said that she wants to fight Natalia, and Natalia accepted. So what happened next week on NXT will go down. Plus two in women's division. Tiffany Stratton, the daddy's girl, takes on Saray 1-on-1. So we'll get to see that match coming up next week as well. So it's a lot going on. Natalia making her moves. Natalia in NXT. Natalia targeting Cora Jay. Speaking of that, Nakia Lyons has sat down interview. She sat down with Mackenzie Mitchell to talk about what she's going on until what's her name came and attacked her and kicked her out of her chair. And it was like, whoa, she kicked her out of her chair. She kicked her out of her chair indeed. I think this is far from over between Lash Legend and Nikita Lyons. Look for this feud to continue on down the road, but when it was that time, she kicked her out of her chair. She kicked her out of her chair. Well, we know this that the NXT championships, the men and women's championships, have got a new wrinkle. Well, they still look the same, but the championships got colorization around it. So I guess they're saying that the women's championship still got the white scrap around behind it, as well as the men with the black. But if you look at the center plate and the side plates, they're colorized. So they're trying to colorize NXT, saying that mark the official change. So in that order. Well, we know this. Mandy Rose defended her championship against Dakota Kai, and she won with an instant. Mandy Rose sending a message that she's going to be a dominant NXT Women's Champion, a long-term NXT Women's Champion for a very long time. And she did so with her stablemates of Toxic Attraction, holding all the gold in NXT. So, hey. And to the Creed brothers, was this their time? Was this their destiny to be NXT Tag Team Champions? Only time would tell. But the Creed brothers went through the gauntlet, starting out first, being the likes of Grayson Waller, being the likes of El Tasma, being the likes of everybody. But until Pretty Deadly came out there, I don't know, they dressed like you know what, but you know how that go. But Pretty Deadly, um, doing the impossible, doing doing something that they cheated the Creed brothers, and they are the new NXT Tag Team Champions. Pretty Deadly, winning on their first night in NXT. How pretty deadly is that? Winning your first tag team titles in NXT. Ugh, my God, you know how they go. But like I said, the show was a good, somewhat show, but couldn't expect Pretty Deadly winning the tag team championships. That's impressive. But we'll see. We'll just go forward. All right, that is the NXT Ring Report. Let's quickly go to Wrestling Hot Topics. On Wrestling Hot Topics this week, we just found out from WWE this morning that if you see Principality Stadium, WWE will hold its first UK pay-per-view event in the UK in September. This marks close to the 30th anniversary of SummerSlam back in 1992 when SummerSlam was in Wembley Stadium. My problem is this. I'm not knocking what's going on with that. Why they just didn't have SummerSlam at that event coming up? And what you gonna call this pay-per-view coming up where SummerSlam was in August? You can't have SummerSlam be like the Labor Day weekend pay-per-view, and then they're competing against All Out. So the timetable is a little bit tricky. SummerSlam going to be coming your way in not August, but in July. You're going to take a whole month in August to build up for this event in the UK. Well, we'll see how this all plays out, but this kind of coincides to the 30th anniversary of SummerSlam. Speaking of that, Austin Theory changed his name. He's just going to be simply known as Theory. Well, Theory gets a championship match next week on Raw when he takes on Finn Balor. I just don't like that name. Just call him Austin Theory. And then they try to make a reason saying he got stunned by Austin. So he don't like the name Austin. He wants to be called Theory. It just don't matter. I mean, they don't know what they're doing. They just don't know what they're doing. It's just crazy. But that's WWE for you. Well, we know tomorrow night on Dynamite, CM Punk wanted a match against anybody. CM Punk said that like I said, he said what he said. He wants a match against somebody. This what he had wrote right here that CM Punk wrote. He said, "Hey, somebody wrestle me Wednesday, and up to Pentagon accepted the challenge. Pentagon takes on CM Punk tomorrow night on Dynamite on TBS. We'll see that. And what we talked about that. We talked about the breaking news situation in Wembley. So, with the coincide to the 30th anniversary of SummerSlam, but SummerSlam ain't gonna be the event ain't gonna be called SummerSlam. They're gonna have something like a premium live event on Peacock for that night. And two, Elias, brother Ezekiel, tried to show proof that him and Elias together on picture. This could have been photoshopped or something. It was a match with Jacob Freeman wrote one, but hey, who knows? It could be a possibility. Plus, two, we talked about the tag team titles changing colors with color design. And on sad note, Gilbert Gottfried. Then you may know him from the Penguin from Aladdin. He just passed away from a long illness. Our thoughts and prayers are with Gilbert Gottfried's family and friends and fans at the moment. Gilbert Gottfried, you see right here, was with some wrestling personalities way back in the day. You can see Jerry the King Lawler, the Head Bashers, and Sonny. So I guess Gilbert Gottfried was doing something down the road. All right, like we said, next week on NXT, this is just as subject to change, like it was like last week. Soraya takes on Tiffany Stratton. Soraya hope to get revenge on Stratton on what she was doing to her in a couple of weeks. We'll see that. Plus, two, Natalya makes her return to NXT to take on Taylor Palmer next week on NXT. We'll see that going forward. All right. Thank you all for watching this edition of the Pro Wrestling Show. So we're gonna leave you with Pretty Deadly winning the NXT Tag Team Championships. Yes, Pretty Deadly are the new NXT Tag Team Championships after going through the tag team championship gauntlet. I've been your host, Kendrick Dick, saying so long, and we'll see you next time on the Pro Wrestling Show.